put that picture up there because whoa, it's loud. That was a picture I took when I was in San Diego at sunset. And I thought, I took the picture, but God made the picture. And wow, what a picture, huh? So if you can't be in the presence of God with a view like that, I don't know what we can do for you. You just might as well give up. That's all I can do. Anyway. I also had a video I wanted to show, but we had a problem getting the sound up good enough. It goes back to what I was talking about with the military. It's a video from Camp Pendleton where the kids are out playing, Marine kids are out playing in the playground, and they're just doing everything, swinging on the swings and everything else. And then colors happens, taps. You could hear it slightly in the background, but it was really loud there. They all got off their stuff. There was no adults around. They got up. They stood at attention, and they stayed until the tap was over, and then they went back to playing. So the fact that the honor that they had was really impressive to me. I wish we could have shown it. It's on YouTube if you ever want to pull it up. It's just do Marines and Marine children on the playground, and you'll find it. It comes right up. So tonight we're talking about kavod. Kavod. It's a term with social, moral, and theological implications derived from the Hebrew root of weight, meaning honor, respect, reverence, importance, and distinction. I'm going to go back to San Diego a lot because I really loved it. So, one of the highlights of my trip to San Diego is I went to the Presidential Museum, Ronald Reagan's Presidential Museum. And while a lot of you weren't around when Ronald Reagan was president, he was a very unique president. He was the great communicator, a lot of things they said about him, but one of the things I respected about him most was he had such a reverence for the office, such a respect for the office of the presidency. He would not enter the Oval Office unless he had his jacket and tie on. He refused to. So that compared to some of the other ones that were doing things in the Oval Office, I mean, it's a big difference. Also, the other thing about him was that a lot of his critics said that he claimed to be a man of God, but he never went to church like the rest of the presidents do. There's a church right there, right off the White House there, and all the other presidents go to that church so they can be caught on camera and everything going to that church. And he claimed to be a man of God, and he never went, and he never defended himself for this either. But I can't remember who it was, but there was a book by one of his closest confidants that came out shortly after his presidency and told his reasoning why. He would have a pastor come in and give him a sermon in the White House every week because he knew that if he went into that church, the sermon would be, all the focus would be on him and not on God. So just a way that he could honor God was to not take the spotlight away from him, and I thought that was pretty amazing too. Honor is, often we think of honor as the big things, saluting the flag, the putting your hand over your heart, or thanking a veteran for his service and stuff like that. But honor is about everything. It's about the little things too, and we often, or I often, don't pay enough attention to that. I'll give you a fine example. Matt will be able to put this. I was teaching. I've known I'm going to teach this week for 2 months now. I knew I was going to teach this for a week. Matt kept saying, "You got an outline for me? You got an outline for me?" Nah, I'll get to it, you know. But if I was honoring Matt's position and what I do here, I would have been prepared a lot earlier. And that's part of honoring, how you do your job, how you honor your job, your boss, and everything. That's all part of it. Another thing is being late, especially here. I mean, in the Big Easy, we think that being late is supposed to happen, right? You're not supposed to be on time, right? It's too hot. But all the excuses in the world. But most of the time, it's just that we overschedule, we don't plan properly, and then there's people sitting there waiting for us. It's dishonoring the people. It's dishonoring the system. Some of the other things, keeping your word. Now that's hard for somebody like me and Matt, because me and Matt are builders, right? So we come up and say, yeah, I'm going to paint that wall green. I'm going to get that building over there. I'm going to do all this stuff. And we're going to do about maybe 1% of it, you know? But that's our personality. But keeping your word is vital to honor. And I'm going to give you a great example of that. Some of you have heard the story before. But I said recently, but with all the stuff that's going on, it's not recently anymore. I bought a house. And when I went to buy the house, we saw the house, we liked the house, it was a number on the door. So we called up, we asked the guy, you know, first day, and he said, yeah. I said, how much are you looking for? He said, $80,000. And I said, well, can we get inside, take a look at it? He said, I'll be right over. So he comes over, we look at the house, and falls in love with it. Okay? So I told the guy, look, I said, we got to check out our finances, but I'll get with you next week and let you know where we're at. So I'm thinking 80,000. I'm thinking, well, if I can get this guy down to 75,000, I'm in pretty good shape, right? And so I said, so I want to negotiate. I don't negotiate when you're buying a house. You can't just come up and say, I'll do it right off the bat. So I lowballed him. I said, I'll give you 65,000, expecting him to say 75,000, and I was going to agree to it. He said, sounds okay to me. Let me call my wife. I was shocked, right? So he calls his wife up, and his wife agrees to it. He shakes my hand, he says, you got a deal. 2 minutes later, his wife calls back. No, you need to hold out for 75, right? The man says, I already shook the man's hand. It's a done deal. Now, there was no deposit given, there was no contract or nothing. He shook my hand. While we were standing there talking over some of the issues of the house, a car pulls up, a lady gets out, she says, I've been looking for you, I want to make an offer on your house. The guy says, I already shook the man's hand. Now that's a rarity in today's world, but it was so honorable that he was willing to back his word to the extent that it probably cost him $20,000. The other person might have went for $85,000 or $90,000. Unfortunately, that was Kirk Pico, and he passed away not too much longer after that. But what a man. I would have never expected that. Excuse me. I had a water when I started this thing. I don't know whether it's like. One of the keys to honor, as I've been reading, is self-esteem. It doesn't really sound that way when you think about it, but when you look into it deeper, I cannot honor anybody unless I'm able to humble myself. You have to humble yourself to honor something else. You have to agree that it's something bigger than you or something better than you. So if you don't have self-esteem, if you don't understand that you're created by God, that your gifts are specifically for you, it's not for nobody else, then it's hard to honor somebody or something else. Only, we're screwed up here. The wrong slide up there somehow. Well, that slide seems to be missing. Okay, so oh, there it is. Yes, self-esteem versus ego, right? Somebody want to read 1 Corinthians 12, 22 to 24. Only one person at a time. Come on.
I'll read it.
All right.
In fact, some parts of the body that seem weakest and least important are actually the most necessary. The parts we regard as less honorable are those we clothe with the greatest of care. So we carefully protect those parts that should not be seen, while the most honorable parts do not require special care. So God put the body together such that the extra honor are given to those parts that have the least dignity.
So if I don't honor what God has given me, I don't have self-esteem about my gifts, then how can I honor anybody else? On the other side of the spectrum, is ego. And ego just does just the opposite. Ego stops you from being able to honor anybody else. In one case, you cannot. Ego is not based on what God has given you. Ego is not based on your gifts. Ego is based on other people's stuff. I only want this big fancy car because I have a better car than Matt has. I gotta have a bigger house. I gotta have these things. You get. There's a fine line between being appropriate and being egotistic. For instance, when I was a kid, you grew up and went to church. If you went to church, you wore a suit. You wore a suit to church. Not because you were trying to show off, but because it was appropriate. That was the way things were done then. That was the appropriate thing to wear. But if I put on the suit, it's got to be at Armani, and I'm only doing it to show up Don, because Don doesn't wear that as good a suit as I am. Well, then it's an ego issue. So, in order to honor somebody, you have to be able to squash those egotistical feelings, which are natural. I mean, it's just born into us. I don't know about the original sin, but I do know that ego is built into us. We all want to be a little bit better than somebody else, and we judge other people, and that's where the problem comes in, judging. We judge other people, even if it's silently, even if you're not saying anything to anybody. You have to judge them to see if you're better than they are, right? So that's where the difficulty comes in, and that's a requirement to satisfy your ego is judgment. Your ego has an insatiable appetite for judgment, and it craves judgment, because that's the only way you can tell whether you're better than they are, right? Is if you judge what they are. Exodus 20:12. Everybody should know this one by now. There's some unique points about Exodus 20:12. The verse is, honor your father and mother, then you will have a long life in the land the Lord has given you. Some of the unique things about this verse is, number one, it's about honoring your father and mother, yet it is placed in the first half of the Ten Commandments. And most of the things in the first half, most people think about the first half, the first five of the Ten Commandments is about honoring God. And the second half is about honoring society. But this one is placed over there with the honoring God. So maybe honoring God has something to do with honoring your parents, right? See. The other interesting thing is, when I think about this stuff, I think, when they wrote this stuff, they didn't live in our times. They didn't have to put up with the crap we put up in our culture. It's just different now, So, it's justified that we have more difficulties than they do because we have this media and everything influencing us and everything else. Then as I read on, I found in the Christian Bible, there's 33 remezes that go back to this verse. So obviously, somebody else was having a problem with this at some point, where they wouldn't have to keep repeating it. It's also the only command that comes with a reward. And that's the last part, right? The last part of the command is, then you will live a long life in the land the Lord has given you. One of the best examples of honor and dishonor in the scriptures is the story of Noah getting drunk in Genesis 9:20-23. Who's going to read it?
Yeah. And Noah, a man of the soil, began and planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunk, and became uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his brothers outside. So Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both of their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. But their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father's nakedness.
Perfect example of dishonor from Ham and honor from the other brothers. Now, who hasn't got drunk and been naked laying on the floor? I mean, we all have done it at some point, you know, at least everybody I know. But but the fact that they were so worried about honoring their father that they went to that trouble after they already knew about it at that point. It wasn't like it was a secret. And one of the things that we've taught so much on here, and that I probably ignore more than most, is Lashon Hara, right? So it didn't matter that it was the truth that he was in there naked. You should be out there telling people about it, you know? So, and that's an area that I struggle with. And that's, I think, you know, that's a key component to honoring people too, is just because you've seen something or know something, you know, it's not honorable to go out there and blab it to everybody out there, everybody you can find, and dishonor the people. If for no other reason, you don't know what brought the circumstances on most of the time, and you're just making assumptions and judging, and we're back to that problem. At first glance, this commandment seems to be something for children. Honor your father and mother. But if you look a little deeper, I think it was actually a commandment to parents. Because we know in Scripture, you reap what you sow, right? And if we expect our children to honor us, then we must lead by example on how we honor each other and how we honor our parents. If we don't, how can we expect them to? I mean, life is life, and it gets tough sometimes, you know? And things don't always go right. And marriages aren't this perfect paradise that always lasts forever, you know, and everything's, you're on your honeymoon the whole time you're married. But when you have kids, you have a responsibility that takes it to another level. So if I badmouth my wife, or I'm criticizing her, or I'm just treating her dishonorably, then how can I expect my kids to not do the same thing? Regardless of what you think, and anybody that's been a parent knows this, kids do what you do, they don't do what you say. So, if you want to live long life in the land that the Lord has given you, even though that's Arabic, yeah. We have to respect each other, we have to treat each other honorably, and we have to treat our parents honorably. What does that mean? Does that mean find them a nice nursing home? You know, what it means is caring for the people when they can't care for themselves, and honoring them for what they are and what they know. And I know this is a little bit you know, as I get older, this is a little bit self-serving, this whole thing here, but I worked in long-term care for about 4 years back in the 90s. And you see people, and again, I'm judging, right? We're all judging, right? I'm judging. I see people, they got the nice cars and they work 3 jobs so they can afford to put their mother in a nursing home. And regardless of the nursing home, I don't care what nursing home it is, I don't care how good the employees are, because a lot of them are great people. They're honorable people, they're trying to do a very tough job. And most of them are doing it for minimum wage or just a little bit over that. But it's not the same as caring for your parents. You can't just pawn off this responsibility. It's our responsibility. They took care of us, as the great Italian Catholic mother would say, you know, I bore you for 9 months, I carried you in my belly, you know, and I did this and I did that. But they did do all that. They did everything for you. They've given up careers, they've changed jobs, they've given up homes, they've given up vacations, they've given up everything for their children, as they should. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they shouldn't do that. They should do that. But when the table turns and they can no longer care for themselves, then we have a responsibility to care for them. And if we don't, well then, when your turn comes, I wouldn't expect my kids to do it either. They're just going to follow my lead. So, honoring your mother and father, even if they're annoying, and they can be. I know, my kids will tell you that. So So it has such more of an importance. It's not about liking the person. It's not about anything else. It's about giving them the respect for what they've done and the respect and honor that they deserve. I was a respiratory therapist when I was in nursing home. And there was this 85-year-old lady when I first went to this one nursing home, an 85-year-old lady with emphysema. And she was a sweet old lady, but she had emphysema bad, and she was in the bed, and she couldn't get out of the bed, and she'd had some surgery in her lungs, and they had put a drain in her lungs to get the infection out and everything. So I got there, and I was new to the long-term care business. I didn't know what it was about. I thought I was supposed to care for the patients. So I started treating her pretty regularly, and talking to her, and I started getting her up out of bed and getting her moving around, because one of the biggest downfalls for elderly people is staying in bed. That's how you get pneumonia. That's how you get bed sores. You get all this stuff. So get her out of bed, take her outside, walked around, and she kept talking about wanting to get back on the golf course. Now this is Naples, so that's normal for an 85-year-old lady wanting to be on the golf course in Naples, right? She kept, I want to get back on the golf course. I want to get back on the golf course. But she had this drain in her side, right? And she was getting better. It was amazing how much she was improving. So I kept leaving notes, doctor's notes, for the doctor about getting this drain taken out of her, because she wanted to get out of there and she was ready to go. And they kept ignoring me. I get no response from them. After about 3 or 4 weeks, we got with the nurse, and we got on a conference call with her primary physician and the surgeon, and said, "Hey, this lady's ready to go, but she's got this stupid drain in her side. We got to get it out of her." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "What I'm talking about? She's up walking around. She's doing fine." He says, "We put her there to die. They thought she was terminal. They just put her there and figured she would die and go away, you know. She didn't have any kids around to help her or say anything to advocates. And what a shame." So then they finally agreed to the thing out. She got out of the nursing home, and I'm sure she was golfing. I never saw her again, but you know, that's the kind of thing that can happen when you don't have the support structure and of your family and your children and everybody. It's vitally important. I mean, spend a day in a nursing home and see what it's like. These poor people, you know, it's worse than jail. At least in jail you can get out of bed. You know, and so now we're going to go to another self-serving verse, Leviticus. Obviously, this is not in any of your Bibles, because nobody did it when I walked in the door. "Rise up before the gray-headed, and you shall favor the face of an old man, and shall fear your Elohim. I am God." So, you guys got to get a new Bible, because that's really in there. I'm not kidding you about that. Our society has forgotten the wisdom and experience of the elderly can provide. Can you imagine? Right back there, he's not even that old, but even him, right there. Rob.
He's got no gray hair.
You want to read a book about Afghanistan? Why? It's written by somebody that probably was never there. He can tell you about it. World War II, you read all these history books about World War II. Go into a nursing home or go down to the vet center and talk to a vet.
I'm not that old.
You're not that old. You just look it. But go to a nursing home or go to a veteran center and talk to a vet. These people lived everything you're reading about. They've forgotten more than most of us will ever know. And it's a gem that we just have forgotten. We just put them away, put them aside. You know, we don't have time for them. You know, they don't understand us, right? Yeah, I believe they do understand you, because every problem you're going through, they've probably been through it. It might have had a different name. Okay, so whatever music you like, your parents don't like it. Big deal. My parents didn't like narcotic music, what they called what I played. You know, everybody, every generation has the same issues. That's why when you read the Bible, and you really read it, wow, I can't believe that. That's the same stuff that's happening to me. It all happens over and over. So the wisdom, even of their mistakes, so they can tell you what they did wrong, so you don't have to do the same thing over and over again. It's vitally important. So I can't stress enough. When you see somebody, especially these old vets around, sit down and talk to them. They gave everything for you. It's just unreal. At least today, our society's doing a little bit better with them. It's not like the Vietnam days, where they spit on you when you walk off the plane, right? But still, we still ignore them. They're still very lonely. I go down to the VA at least once a week now for different appointments, and you just see them there. They're just there. And they need people. So if you have some free time, go down to the VA. It's really nice. They got a great restaurant in there, or a cafeteria in there. You can eat, sit down, and talk to these guys, and it'll change their life. Believe me, it will. Next, we look at Isaiah. And the Lord says, "These people say they are mine. They honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. And their worship of me is nothing but man-made rules learned by rote." You know what rote is, right? Come on, you're a public school guy, right? You know what rote is, right? No? Anybody know what rote is?
Memorize.
I didn't know neither. I had to look it up. But it's the mechanical process of just following the rules, just doing it because it's mechanical.
I think that's Hebrew, right? Road.
I don't know. It was
I think it's
It's
Catholic.
making a joke. I don't know.
Catholic. Definitely Catholic. It's a Catholic word.
Now this is where it gets difficult. Okay, this is why kavod has the root word of heavy. It's not easy. Honor is not easy to do. And this is when it gets really tough. When you got to really look in your heart and see if your heart is really in it or not, or are you just going through the motions? I talked a minute ago about going to church with a suit on when I was a kid, right? And when I first came here, I often looked around and I saw the boys not standing up when they were singing, and I saw kids running around, and my first initial instinct was that's just disrespectful. You know, they don't have any respect for where they're at. They're in church, right? But then it came to me over the years that if you make it miserable for them, they're probably not going to come back. So the relaxing of these rules is actually a good thing, because it makes people willing to come and willing to listen to what's going on. Where when I went to church back then, I didn't go that often when my mother drugged me, but there was rules, and the rules were strict. You sat there properly, you didn't make a noise, you had a suit on, you had to do all these things, right? And I hated church. So sometimes when I look back in the past, I tend to initially think that those were the good old days, right? That's when people respected people. People did things right. People did things. And then when I really look at it close, find out, well, a great saying that I've had for a while, the good old days are only the good old days because they're not here now. People were going through the motions. Everybody had what they had to do, but I just don't believe the heart was in it. It was just something they were required to do, and you knew that. I mean, if you watch any of the mafia movies about New York, you know, these guys are killing people 6 days a week, and then they go to church on Sunday, right? So it was that rote, that mechanical thing that you do, and that's what Isaiah is talking about, or God's talking about here in Isaiah. If you're not going to come with the heart, then don't bother coming at all. There was another one, I think it's in Samuel, where they're bringing the sacrifice, and again, I don't care about your sacrifices. I don't care about this. If your heart isn't in it, then it's not there. And our thoughts, our brain. That's probably our biggest problem. If we could just turn the brain off sometimes, because like people like me, that everybody often says that I have no filter, that what I think I say, right? And that's not good. But there's people that think but don't say. And when it comes to honor, that's just as bad. So if you walk in the door, say, you see what Don's wearing? Even if you didn't say it, just think it, you're dishonoring him. You can't honor him while you're thinking about all his, what you consider flaws. And the good Christians in this room here, they would never say anything about somebody. But they might think it, right? Getting control of those thoughts. Now that's the tough stuff, right? We have to find a way, and I haven't figured it out yet, so no, I'm not giving you the solution here. You have to figure a way to see everybody as a creation of God and focus on that. And you can find something about everybody that is worthy of praise and worthy of honor. And you can change the people that you don't like by honoring them. And I remember his name, but I'm not going to say it, okay? When I first got here, there was a gentleman that I was told I could get some work from. I didn't have any work. A gentleman I could get some work from. But he's a little crazy. And he treats people really, really crappy. And they told me I wasn't allowed to hit him, right? That was one rule. And I went to work with him. Now, granted, I knew this ahead of time, so that might have helped. But I treated him with respect, and I worked with him, and within 2 or 3 days, he was giving me raises, and he was telling me, you know, when can you come back? It was a different person by the way I treated him. So we can change the people's habits that we don't like by honoring them rather than pushing against them. Matt always says, nothing changes unless I do. I'm not responsible for how anybody in this room acts. I'm only responsible for how I act. And if I act the right way, it can influence other people to act the right way. So it's vitally important. In Psalms, it says, praise the Lord, all who fear him, honor him, all your descendants of Jacob, show him reverence, and all your descendants of Israel. That's sort of, do you have the papers? Oh, here. That's sort of the wrap up of this. You cannot dishonor me or you and still honor God. Because God created me and you and you. So if you got something nasty to say about me, you might as well be just saying about God and getting it over with, you know? Because it's the same thing. God created everything and everybody. And there's something about everything and everybody that's worthy of honor. And it's our duty and our responsibility as children of God to find that. And it's hard. It's real hard sometimes. But we can do it. Tonight we're going to put out an honor challenge, okay? I'm going to pass these out, or you can pass them out here, and then we'll go over the ones. This is different ways, different minor ways, different everyday things we do, and the ways that we can show honor. Got a computer, look, yeah, there it is, right there. So you got a copy of it, but there it is. Okay, we'll start out with baby steps. Return your shopping cart when you're done.
Yes, amen.
Don't leave it in the driveway, especially when you leave it in the only open spot left. You got all these carts in there, so you can't, nobody else can park, right? Okay, so they pay somebody to pick them up, but you can honor that person by helping them out, right? And doing the right thing. When you do go shopping, check out in an aisle with a cashier. Don't go to the self-checkout aisle. Let that person know she's not been replaced by a machine. If you're messy at home or at your workplace, Honor your coworkers or your housemates by cleaning your crap up. It doesn't matter whether you don't mind it or not. There's other people in the building. There's other people in the group. Clean it up. Now here's the big challenge. I want you all to drive to New Orleans this week and back without criticizing the other drivers.
We just got to cross Jackson Barracks and come back. I can make it there.
Probably can't get to Patricia Street without it, you know? Make it a point to be on time in all your affairs. Don't overschedule. Call your parents for no special reason at all, just to hear their voice. I was probably the most guiltiest person in the world of this. I tell the story, and it's the truth. I swear to God, I was in the Navy. I never called home. I was out drinking, doing all kinds of crazy stuff or wherever we was. But I was in the submarine force, so everything I did was, our submarine was top secret. My mother, after a year without hearing from me, calls up the Navy to try to find out what's going on with me. They said, sorry, that's top secret. We can't tell you. That's not honoring my parents, okay? That'd be very dishonorable. So, believe me, just to pick up the phone and call them, not when you need something, not because it's their birthday or Christmas, just because you want to talk to them. Makes all the difference in the world. Again, like I said before, visit a nursing home or a veteran center. Just talk and listen to the people carefully. Find a person that you have difficulty with, and it's probably me, and find a way to honor them. Just find a way. There's got to be something you can do to honor them. Try and go 24 hours without having a critical thought about anyone. Find a way and keep track and see how many critical thoughts you have in a day. I mean, that's in everything. I mean, I just walking down the street and see the guy in a pink shirt saying, I'd never wear that stupid shirt. What's the matter with him? You know, just those thoughts that keep drilling through your head all the time. We can find a way to wrap them up and put them away and think about God and think about how to honor people. Our lives will change. If I honor my parents, and then my children will honor me, and maybe they won't stick me in a nursing home. Yeah. Personally, I'm playing for a massive stroke, so it's all over with quickly. But so much confidence I got in my kids. But
You're judging.
yeah. I said I haven't figured this out yet. I'm telling you what I'm supposed to do, but I'm working on it.
He's got to go to demolition tonight. Go to Walmart when he leaves in and turn all the stuff.
But other than that, and that's something that I want to close with this. This community probably needs this lecture less than anybody I've ever met. This is a very honorable community. I know from personal experience, I came in here and I am definitely a little different than the rest of you most of the time. And I felt nothing but honor here and respect. And, and I thank you guys for that. It's been an amazing trip, the time that I've been here, and keep up the good work. It's been great. Any questions? Why don't you give us a Catholic prayer out?
Catholic prayer.
I can even do the, whatever it is.
See. You want an official Catholic?
Just from a Catholic. How about that?
From a Catholic. From a devout Catholic. Dear Lord, on the subject of honor, I would say that the honor begins with you and the relationship of each individual with you. Because if you can figure out that, then the honor flows through. The love flows through as a conduit through the person to others. And then the honor and the respect that you give others is so much easier. But I think it takes that primary connection to begin it. And that's everybody's own individual journey. And I just pray for everybody to have the ability to find the peace of that journey. Amen.